As mentioned, I'm Kristin Sicke, General Manager of the Yolo County Flood Control and Water Conservation District, excuse me, and Executive Officer of our local groundwater sustainability agency, the Yolo Subbasin Groundwater Agency, which is a JPA of 26 members. Today, I'm just going to briefly review the irrigation district's recharge program that we've had for about the past 8 years. So despite our name as a Yolo County Flood Control and Water Conservation District, we're not technically affiliated with the county. We're a conjunctive use irrigation district. We were formed in 1951. And when we were formed, we actually didn't have surface water rights. So we spent about 10 to 15 years in trying to investigate ways to obtain surface water rights. And at the beginning in 1951, we were very much involved in groundwater monitoring with the Department of Water Resources. So our service area here is shown in the yellow polygon. It's 200,000 acres of the 600,000 acres of Yolo County. Our operational area extends northwest into the upper Cache Creek watershed. So we actually maintain, operate, manage Cache Creek Dam on Clear Lake and Indian Valley Dam on Indian Valley Reservoir. We release flood flows and irrigation flows from those reservoirs, and they travel downstream in Cache Creek for about 65 miles, where we then divert those flows into our unlined irrigation system. We have 160 miles of earthen canals that the water is distributed through and then ultimately ends up on farmers' fields. This is just a distribution of the 2023 crops that were signed up. So about 82,000 acres within the 200,000 acre service area can receive our irrigation water based on how the system's plumbed. We have 50 unique crop types, but as you can see here, the number one crop is almonds, coming over a little more than 14,000 acres, and then hay, oats, wheat, barley, triticale is next, a little over 13,000 acres, tomatoes, alfalfa, olives, wine grapes, rice, sunflower, etc. This is just a bird's eye view of the Cape Diversion Dam. It's looking upstream in Cache Creek. And on the right-hand side, that is our West Adams Canal. And then on the left-hand side is the Winters Canal. So during the irrigation season, we will actually inflate a 475-foot wide, 5-foot tall inflatable bladder there, which then allows for us to elevate the head of the water and to divert it into our canal system. This is just a bird's eye view again, but we've kind of shifted it so that the west, I don't know what I'm doing. You're doing that. Okay, sorry. The west is now in the north. So Cache Creek is coming down past Cape Hay, and it's coming down here. It heads just north of Woodland. And then as we divert water, then it goes into our 160 miles of unlined canal. So there you can see the distribution of where the water flows. By policy, our district has ensured that we do not line our canals. Similar to what Aaron Fukuda had said, there's a direct benefit to the overall community, but directly to the domestic wells as well, because of the passive recharge that occurs during the irrigation season. So the district is not only providing a massive in-lieu benefit when there's surface water available, but we also, on average, have about 25% of our surface water deliveries that are diverted at the Cape Dam are then recharged in the aquifer. And this is very evident because in 2021 and 2022, when we had little and no water, domestic wells were going dry all around the canal system area, which was kind of a bummer. Here is the Yolo County Groundwater Monitoring Program. So in addition to us having this policy, we have a program that, as I mentioned at the beginning, has been sustained since the early 1950s in really focusing on monitoring the groundwater. So you can go onto yologroundwater.org. This is an active map. You can click on these individual wells and see the hydrographs. The blue wells are our periodic monitoring wells for spring and fall. The red wells are the continuous monitoring wells, the one we have connected to our SCADA system and our real-time. And then the yellow wells are the Sigma representative wells that are connected to the Yolo Subbasin Groundwater Sustainability Plan. Here is a hydrograph. So this is now focusing back just on the district, not looking at that county-wide monitoring map. This is our irrigation district average hydrograph from 1975 to 2023. And the way we were able to illustrate sustainability to DWR in our groundwater sustainability plan was through this empirical data, is showing that here's the historical measurements of depth to water. Here's how we continue to recover during drought periods. As you can see, that 1977 dip, we recovered. Early 1990s, we recovered. The more recent trend here from 2014 on is what we're starting to track and wanting to ensure that we can, again, come back up to that average depth to water of potentially 20 to 30 feet. But what I like to look at is sort of the recent drawdown changes. So in 1977, the drawdown from spring to fall was about 18 feet. And I should have said, the low points are in fall, the high points are in spring. This is the irrigation pattern sawtooth, given the agricultural property that's served. The 1977 drawdown from spring to fall was about 18 feet. The 2022 drawdown from spring to fall was about 23 feet. And so it really seemed to illustrate the impact of this recent drought and how much it may have differed from 1977. In 2019, the drawdown from spring to fall was about 10 feet. And then this season for 2023, irrigation drawdown from spring to fall was about 7 feet. And this was what we believe to be primarily because of the late rainfall that came in and the milder temperatures that were observed in Yolo County. It seemed like the crops did not have as much demand, in addition to, of course, all the irrigation water that was available. So this is our effective tool and way to monitor what's going on in the aquifer. And this is something that really helped us when we went and talked to the State Water Board about obtaining a temporary permit, is that we let them know we had a very robust monitoring program and we could actually monitor the wells in real time. And so here is our supervisory control and data acquisition system that has now 32 real-time wells in it. And the green line is Cache Creek and the blue line is our canal system. You can see 505 runs down there on the west, and then 5 runs a little bit on the north down to the southeast there. Here is what we do to help ourselves understand what this means. Similar to DWR's surface water reservoir map, where they let you know how the surface water reservoirs are relative to average year, dry years, etc. We use this depth to water historical comparison to provide us with just an average understanding of how we are doing this year relative to previous years. So I know this is very small, but the two far right columns are essentially providing a delta to last year on the beginning of October, and then to 2015 relative to this year in October. And so on average, we're about 21 feet higher than we were in 2022 at the beginning of October. And then in 2015, we're about 17 feet higher than we were in 2015, excuse me. So again, this was just a very helpful tool to show the State Water Board that we were tracking and monitoring the groundwater and would be able to let them know once we have observed a change, ideally the percolation from recharge activities. So the SCADA system inventory that we have allows for us to have better control over sites. In addition to the monitoring, we are able to have dam flow control and canal level and flow control. And this is something that is immensely helpful, not only during the irrigation season when we need to keep the water level consistent for our farmers and for their deliveries, but also during the winter when we want to bring the water into the canal system so that we can track it and ensure we're not causing any flooding issues or any problems. There's no obstructions in the canal system. So here's just an example of one of the level and flow control sites that we have. Just to illustrate that, again, we have the solar panel and the SCADA control box that then sends this back to our headquarters, and we're able to view this all on the computer, which is immensely helpful during the rainy season when you can't really access these muddy canal roads. And so this is something that has helped us to feel confident about bringing flood flows into the irrigation system so that we can recharge the aquifer in the rainy season. Here's a picture of the SCADA system for the canal system, where you can see, again, we're just tracking the CFS all throughout the system to let ourselves know where the water is. We aren't as fortunate as Aaron Fukuda to have recharge basins, but I'd like to get there someday, if possible. Here's Cache Creek during very high flows. I want to say this picture was about 19,000 CFS. This system is very flashy. Water comes in, water goes out. And ideally, what we like to do is we like to take the tail end of the stream after the sediment has kind of dropped off a bit. And that is something that we had to really educate the State Water Board about, is that we don't really want those peak flows. That's not helpful to us. That'll plug up our whole canal system. And typically during the peak of the flood, or during the peak of the rain event, is when we're actually experiencing already inundation in the canal system because of all the runoff from the farmers' fields. And so we'd like for the farm flows to kind of drop off, taper off, and then for us to bring water from Cache Creek in after we've had a chance to inspect the system and make sure there's no damage to the canal system. So in 2023, we were able to obtain another temporary permit. Again, we've done this for the past 8 years with the State Water Board. It's essentially a 180-day permit to divert flows. It's relatively simple in the application process from my perspective. It's much cheaper, which I'll show in a second. But it has allowed for us to start to pilot this project. So 2016 was our best year, where we diverted 11,000 acre feet. And something that was attributed to that is that Cache Creek Dam, Clear Lake, was in flood releases for a sustained period. And that hasn't happened again since 2016. But this year we were able to divert about 4,300 acre feet. And it's something that we want to continue in the future, and we want to expand on farmers' fields if possible. Christine was very helpful in giving the kind of the downsides in doing the farm field recharge. I think a lot of our growers are scared of those downsides, and so they've been a little hesitant to try something. But maybe if I put the evil hat on that Aaron had of, well, it's either demand management or that, it might change their mindset a little bit. And one thing that's, of course, comes up is that the fields have to be part of the irrigated lands regulatory program, because the regional board requires us to monitor the water quality implications of what we're doing. As Julia mentioned, our district is hoping to work with TNC in a bird returns program. We've been talking to our farmers about this quite a bit over the past few years, but haven't had the water available. And this year it was tough timing with scheduling and working it all out, but that is still something we would like to do. Here's the water rights fee difference. So we are currently trying to complete a long-term permit, because the State Water Board actually doesn't like you applying for temporary permits year over year over year, because they say that's enough. But this just kind of elucidates the reason why we've been doing it, is that really tiny light blue line at the bottom that I actually have to zoom in on here is the temporary permit fee. And that is just much more reasonable than this dark blue line up at the top. And so that's unfortunately been something that has held us back historically, is just the cost of the water right application, just for the State Water Board to review it. And the temporary permits have just been extremely reasonable, around $8,000 to $16,000, $15,000. And so thankfully, we just received a grant funding through Sigma Implementation Program, and we are going to go for the long-term fee. But I would really recommend that anyone that's interested in needing a temporary permit, give it a try, because it's much cheaper and, in my opinion, very easy. So the lessons learned is that we made sure we had a policy, a program, and a project in place that ensured we could just try it out as soon as the governor's executive order came out and temporary permits were expedited. So maintaining the earth and canal system, creating a robust groundwater monitoring system, and modernizing the delivery system. Again, we had to know the landscape and the hydrology, and really remind the State Water Board that each watershed is unique. And we had to make outreach a significant component of the plan to ensure that all the downstream users were not impacted. Something I didn't really touch on is our temporary permit for 180 days still requires very robust outreach with the Bureau, the state water contractors, DWR, CDFW, regional board, they're involved. We like to optimize the system while balancing the objectives. So weather dependent, we have to avoid diverting the sediment. We have to ensure there's no construction activities in the canal system. and we have to make sure we monitor any debris buildup. One thing I continue to try to remind myself is that we want to try to be flexible to achieve sustainability, and working with the State Water Board, it was helpful to get their willingness to allow us to just pilot this and learn more and then have it be an adaptive management process. So I understand we're doing questions later, but if for any reason you'd like to reach out to me, here's my contact information. Thank you.